right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So, again, we are meeting here in the sanctuary, but we are also live streaming on the website, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So, again, if you folks know of someone who would benefit from this information, you can always point them back to the live stream. Go watch the recording. So, we've got some other folks coming in here through the doors. So we'll wait until they hop on in. But before we get going, again, for those, especially who might be watching the live stream or the recording, I am Pastor Dave Larson, the pastor here at St. John. And we are very blessed to have with us today Scott Nelson from AARP. And he'll share more about himself, his story, all the tips with that. So I know he said towards the end of it, when we have time for Q&A, he'll be able to, for the folks online, repeat those questions and then make sure that we can pick it up on the audio online. So having said that, I'm just going to turn things over to Scott. So let's welcome Scott today.
Thank you, Pastor Dave. So I'm here today to hopefully save everyone some money in the near future and some grief. We all know that fraud is a hot topic in the news today. And I've been speaking for AARP for about 2 years now, pretty much towards the beginning of COVID. That was tough. It was tough to get groups together, but we were working hard to get out the information via the AARP Fraud Watch Prevention Team. How did I become a member of the Fraud Watch Prevention Team? Well, I guess I can share that I do work with United Healthcare. I do work with seniors. I work on a Medicare Advantage team. So I do hear many, many stories of fraud working with my clients. But then in 2020, my own family experienced a fraud event. My parents grew up, my parents are 85 and 87. Do we recognize this? Huh? Sorry, Pastor Dave, but this was like the Bible to many. We kept it on our coffee table all year round, right? And if we needed to make an order, we'd simply pick up the phone and call the 1-800 number, correct? Opportunities for fraud? Very little. Times have changed. This is the last print, by the way, of a Sears catalog. I was excited to scoop that up on eBay. My parents, at the beginning of 2020, my mom won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. So did you. Excellent. So she thought, right? She got involved in sending cashier's checks to pay for the taxes and the fees for her winnings. And perhaps maybe 15 years ago, would they have made the same decision? I don't know. But they're so convincing, and that's the thing about any one fraud event. And you don't have to be a senior. It could happen to any one of us. They're so convincing, and it's related generally to someone who you have a relationship with. Whether in this case, my mom probably bought magazines from Publishers Clearinghouse. Or, you have a relationship with Wells Fargo Bank, and all of a sudden they're telling you your bank account's about to be closed. Would you question it? Or would you assume, yep, something's happening and I better do something about it? So with the sweepstakes, and forward the slide here, we know you never send money unless you're standing in front of a lot. You're at the casino, right? And you're at the slot machine, or you're buying pull tabs. I understand you're paying money then, but if you're winning a sweepstakes, any taxes or fees that you would pay would be paid out of the winnings. My mom really got involved in this, and perhaps it was that period of time where that isolation from COVID, A lot of us experienced it, and this scammer was willing to sit on the phone with my parents for hours and talk with them. And talk about talk about the weather, talk about the birds outside the window. And at the very end of their conversation, they would share, God bless you, sadly. So then, when I first learned that this was happening, I quickly called 911. The cops, most specifically the investigator, came and they spoke to my parents, and the scammers called while the investigator was at my parents' home. The investigator spoke with the scammer, but sadly there wasn't anything they could do. The scammers are not even, in this case, were not in this country. As we walked out, the investigator turned to me and said, I don't think your parents are going to stop giving money. They're so convinced that they had won. Even with someone of authority, a police officer, they're telling them that this is a scam. They still believed the scammers. We had to close their bank account, get rid of their landline, which they really did not like. Again, my parents were 85 and 87. They didn't have a flip phone or a smartphone. So by getting rid of the landline, that was a big change for them, and it was tough. And I wonder at times that was more difficult for them than the money they lost. Just the change in their life. And I'm like, we're going to have to make some extreme changes because you're now on a list. Once you've given money, you go to that top of the list. They know that you're willing to give money and they can get more out of you. And if they can't, guess what? They're going to sell your information because in some cases, they make more money selling your private information than they ever did the money they stole from you. Because they can sell your information time and time and time again, whoever's willing to pay for it. And if the scammers share that, yep, we got money out of this one, another scammer is more than willing to pay handsomely for that information because they know they can get more money out of you. How much money did my parents give? $120,000. That's tough. A big chunk of that was an inheritance that my mother received from her mother, who was a lunch lady. Can't imagine how long that took to save up. And then when the scammers realized that they were coming near to the end of that, what money was readily available, they said, well, go to Best Buy and buy us 3 90-inch TVs. Go to the Apple store and buy us 2 iPhone 12s. My parents don't even really know what an iPhone 12 is, and yet they were willing to stand in line at Thanksgiving in a long line to get a phone. The harassing phone calls that we receive, again, we're sharing how times have changed. The best way you can prevent scammers by getting a hold of you is to update your phone and your contacts. What I mean is get every name, every contact you have, your friends, your family, business acquaintance, get them in your contact. Get their names in there so when they do call, their name comes up under caller ID. If it's anyone else, don't answer it. If it's important, they will leave a message. And I know that's tough for my parents. Anytime that phone rings, that's exciting to them. Someone's calling. But I'm like, stop answering it. If it isn't any one of us, your friends and family, just don't answer. They'll leave a message if it's important. And if you don't know how to update your contacts and get all of them in there, talk to your granddaughter or grandson. Online social media scams, clickbait scams. This is an interesting one. and this has been around for actually quite a long time when we're considering how long computers have been around. When friends and family share information, and there was this large period of time where it was really fun and exciting to be a part of that social media frenzy of sending whatever you could or sharing of whatever you found to others. Meaning, someone sent you pictures of World War II airplanes, and you thought that's your way of being a part of this new technology, and I'm going to share it with my friends. Well, they knew you were going to do that. When I'm saying they, the scammers, sent somehow, some way, this link out to, in this case, it's just an example, World War II airplanes, or I don't care, it could be cute kitties. You would look at that and you would think, God, that's valuable. I'm going to share that with my friends and family. And you send it to them. And then they send it to their friends, and they send it to their friends. Well, what's happening, unless you generated that photograph and you created that email and you sent that link, it's just simply clickbait scams where they're expecting you to click on that image, and then behind the scenes, malware is being downloaded to your computer, where then they can watch and see what keys you're clicking. And what keys do you commonly click? Probably a username and password, something more frequent than any other keys you would select. And their software allows them to find that and say, of the keys you click on your keyboard, which ones do you click the most often? And it becomes your username or your password. And they have it now. So in my parents' example, if my dad got some pictures of old tractors, antique tractors from one of his buddies, I told my dad, you need to reach out to your friend and tell him to stop sending you those images. I know it's fun to look at them, but it's not worth it. It's not. And just explain to them why. Educate them on why we wouldn't click on those images. The impersonation scams. Someone, perhaps, it could be a friend, it could be a business acquaintance or a business itself that you have a relationship with, and they're calling you and they're saying that they need money. They need your help. Well, question it, number one, obviously, and don't follow their lead. And that's on many, many of the links and emails and text messages that we'll receive, is if you have any doubts or any questions, don't continue to follow their lead. What I mean is, don't call the number they provide you. Don't click on the link that they provide you. Call your friend. Call the trusted number that you know of. If you're getting an information from a friend, you call them and say, hey, I got this message, and it says that you're out of town and your car broke down and you need money. Is that true? And many times they'll say, no, I'm at home watching TV. I don't know what you're talking about. The grandparent scam. Have we heard of that? Yeah, that's kind of an easy one because we want to help out, right? We want to help our grandchildren. If they're in trouble, we want to help. Well, the call starts generally, Grandma, you know who this is? Why are they saying it that way? Because they're expecting you to share, Jimmy, is that you? Yeah, Jimmy, that's me. Yeah, and then it goes on that they're in trouble. Don't tell my parents, right? But I need help. I'm embarrassed. I'm in a little bit of trouble. I need some money. Can you send it to me? Don't tell my parents because I don't want them to know. And what does the grandparent do? They send them the money. And a lot of times it's a gift card. It isn't so much hard cash because gift cards are very, very difficult to track and to, especially, to connect that to a scammer. Well, what do we do in that instance? When you have a grandchild calling you asking for help, call them. Call them on, again, a trusted number that you know and say, call Jimmy. Jimmy, I just got a text message from you saying that you needed help when you needed money. Is that true? No, Grandma, I'm just sitting here watching TV, right? So again, do your due diligence, call them. Just don't assume that this is the true grandparent, because they sound young on the phone, they sound very convincing, and they'll work your heartstrings, right? So we have to call and verify. Online dating, romance scams, that's now becoming a popular one. What is it? It's just simply scammers who are taking advantage of someone who wants love, looking for love, right? And they'll do whatever it takes to win your heart. And it's amazing, these people, when you listen to, they have everything going for them, but yet they have all of the problems. And that's a big red flag. How can you be so successful in your career and you got all these things going for you, and yet you have all these problems, issues as well? And then ultimately it resorts to, I need money. Can you help me? They're very patient. These scammers who are willing to do online dating and romance scams, they're very, very patient. What I mean by that is they can win your heart, your family, win your family over, be a part of your whole family for a year. And all of a sudden, things drastically change, and now they need all this help and money. It was a scam from the very beginning, sadly. So just know, if you're meeting someone and all of a sudden they're asking for money, don't give it. It's a red flag. Quizzes and polls, win a free TV is my example. The cost of a television nowadays is not very expensive, but the information that they get from you is worth a lot. Scams and polls, when they start asking for your personal information, the whole scam there is simply they're going to sell your personal information once they receive it from you. The cost of the television was nothing to them. Maybe you thought you'd win the TV, but the fact that they now have all of your personal information, they're asking for your name, your address, your age, maybe even your social security. Once they get that information, that's when your identity can be stolen. And that's very, very scary, because now they're opening up bank accounts in your name and all over in different parts of the country. It's very scary. So just know it's not worth winning a free TV, giving away your personal information. Phishing scams. What is it? Well, you may receive an email or text message saying that your bank account has been locked, or that your internet is locked and you no longer have access. The link will obviously ask you to verify your information. They may just provide you a number to call. Well, once you call that number, they're going to be like, well, who's this? Well, first, before we begin, we need to verify your information. Your name, your address, your social security. Okay, see, they're hoping that you will call that or leave or connect them to, maybe it's a link out to a website. They're hoping that you will call, and again, that's the whole scam, is that they're going to capture your personal information. Now, what I've learned, again, working with seniors, is many, many times when they'll leave their computer on, and they leave it on for long periods of time, meaning they never restart their computer, ever. They leave it on, they might shut the laptop down or just slide the mouse down and let it, go into sleep mode. But you really should restart your computer, and often. Because if you are experiencing any fraud event where malware or any of that is trying to be downloaded to your computer and it's watching what you're clicking, right? Restart that computer so you now have a blank slate. Do it often. Username and passwords. Passwords, I'll talk about it a little bit later too, but I want to make sure your passwords or your usernames shouldn't include personal information about you. Like, let's say in my password, I included my zip code or the last 4 digits of my billing address, right? Your passwords or your usernames should be unique, and they should all be different. If we use the same password for every website that requires a password, once a scammer has that information, they could potentially get into your bank account, they could get into a lot of things because you made it so easy for them. So generate unique username and passwords and write them down. Don't save them on your computer because they can get into your computer. Then I know there's software out there that generates very encrypted usernames and passwords, and it seems like a great way to generate something that, well, you wouldn't even necessarily know what it is because the software generated it, and it's so long and lengthy that you'd never memorize it. The problem with that is if your computer crashes for whatever reason, and they do, if you have to rebuild the hard drive or get a new hard drive put into your computer, the software company that has that software that generates usernames and passwords for you automatically, they won't recognize your computer anymore because that hard drive no longer exists, and it's gone. It's literally gone because they don't even know what your username and passwords are, right? So just write it down on a piece of paper and keep it in a safe place. And my parents, they came from a time where there was very little transparency between me and them, meaning they would never share how much money they had, where their money even was kept. It's just that era. But with my daughter, I share everything. I share, here's where we bank, here's our usernames and passwords, or this is at least where I store them in case if I pass away, you can access our information if needed. Just a difference in time, perhaps. But it kind of steers me to the difference of, we're having this conversation today, but I wish your children were here as well, because children really do need to become a bigger part of their parents' lives. Start asking more questions. What are you experiencing right now? Is there anything that I can help you with? Because my parents would not call me and tell me that they won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. They kept, and perhaps they were being coached by the scammer, but they just didn't tell me. And when they got deeper and deeper into it and they realized that perhaps they are being scammed, they were not gonna call or tell me about it. And so I am now my parents' power of attorney. Because so many things had happened. Not only did they do the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes scam, and I'm not saying Publishers Clearinghouse is a scam, I'm saying what they experienced was someone fraudulently told them that they had won when they really didn't, okay? But they also fell for this is Microsoft calling you. We understand that you have a virus on your computer. For $300, we can get rid of it, and then we'll clear your computer of any other virus we find, and actually we'll guarantee that your computer will run faster. My parents did that, gave them full access to their computer. Of course, there goes the mouse, automatically being controlled by them. Behind the scenes, they're downloading spyware to my parents' computer. so that they, again, can get all the usernames and passwords. The other part of that scam is maybe subliminally, my parents thought, oh yeah, it is running faster. I don't know if it did or not, but the next day, it didn't work at all. Well, that's part of the scam. You're supposed to call the number. You did. They gave you a number to call. Oh, we're so sorry. And because of that, we will refund you back the $300 you paid. Okay? The next day, you get a call from them. We're so sorry. We meant to refund you $300. We accidentally sent you $3,000. You need to now pay us that $3,000, right? It was all a scam. Nothing. And so my parents fell for that one. And then there was a third one. It was the grandparent scam. That was the third one. Yes, you have a question? Oh, sorry. So the question is, these other scams, was that after winning the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes? Actually, those two other scams were before. But I learned about them after the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. Yeah. So even today, I go and visit with my parents on Wednesdays, and on the table, stacked high, is all this junk mail. And I'm like, what are you doing with this? It scares me. Why are you collecting this? It's like trophies. And it's just, perhaps that's their entertainment. It's fun to receive mail. But I'm like, you're not doing anything about this, right? I mean, let's look through this mail together. I'll help you with that. And I think that helps tremendously, but I'm still leery of them. Like, you're not doing, and because I am their power of attorney, they have no access. They need my signature to their money, so I'm not too worried. But it's still, upsetting that that these scammers still have some way of somehow of getting at my parents. Because when I tried to help them, erase them pretty much from scammers, that again meant closing their bank account, opening up another bank account, reaching out to all the companies that they have automatic funds transfer set up with, asking them to close that bank account. Here's their new bank account. Some companies, some of these larger companies, you can't even get a hold of anybody, right? There's no number to call. If you want to get a hold of Verizon, good luck. It's like you have to chat with someone, maybe you can get through to them that way, but it's very difficult at times. They make it very difficult to just reach out and call someone, right? And they, again, back to the phone, they hate to have their landline hanging on the wall anymore. Burner phones. I got them both burner phones. What is a burner phone? You go to Target. You buy a phone off the shelf. You buy a card with minutes. It's not tied to their name. It's not tied to their address. It's not tied to the fact that my parents are in their 80s. The scammers have no idea who this person is who has this phone. And they have to go through their minutes, and then they buy new minutes, right? They had to do that because, again, once you've given money and you're now on that list of, they were getting bombarded. Scammers after scammers, their information was being sold, and that was really, they had to do something drastic. And that was a big part of it, is trying to get them set up in such a way that scammers no longer had contact. Delete emails and text messages that you don't recognize. We're going to get a lot of those, right? And even if it is a business that you have a relationship with, I shared, like, let's say you received an email from Wells Fargo. Again, don't follow their lead. If it's something, if they're asking for personal information about your account, or they're saying your account's closed, don't call the number that they're providing you or the link. call a trusted number that you know of. And call Wells Fargo and say, I got this text message saying that my account's about to be closed. Is that true? They'll verify, no, it's not. It was a scam, right? That's a big part of, and that's our part. Scammers will continue to try to scam us, but if we continue to make it easy for them, it's too lucrative. They make too much money at it. How much money do they make? In 2022, it was well over $500 million. That's in Minnesota. $500 million? That's no wonder why they do what they do. But if we why don't we go after them? Again, they may not be in this country. It's very difficult. Just don't give them the access. Don't give them the opportunity. I have had a conversation once with a gentleman who shared, I knew all along it was a scam, and I fooled them. I sat on the phone for well over an hour, and I just wasted their time. Well, I understand, but the scammer knew that you knew that it was a scam, and now it's a challenge for them. You made it challenging for them. And if they ultimately can't get you to give up some money or private information, they're going to sell your information to some other scammer that thinks, oh, if you're willing to sit on the phone for an hour, I can get some money out of you. Okay? So, Minnesota nice, I understand, but we don't have to be nice to scammers. Just hang up. Yes. Right. Right. Everything's working. And the Googles, the Social Security Administration, the large companies of this world, they're not going to reach out to you. We're too small. It's not worth their efforts. Delete it. Or, like I shared, call a trusted number that you know of and verify. Don't follow their lead. Take action. You stop all contact with your scammer. Again, don't entertain them. I understand you may know that it's a scam and I'm going to fool them. Don't. And if you do experience a scam, we have ways of reporting it. You can report to the website or to the business that you're having an issue with. Let's say it's something about Wells Fargo related, that your account's about to be closed. Well, reach out to Wells Fargo and tell them that you received this message. And then again, they'll verify, and then they'll document it. If you want, as a company, they want to know that information. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and Internet Crime Complaint Center, and the Federal Trade Commission is another area, a website that you can list your complaints about an event that you experienced, a scam, and ultimately here at the Minnesota Attorney General's office. You don't get your money back. The $120,000 that my parents lost, they couldn't claim that on their taxes as a loss in 2020. It's gone. Gift card scams. Scammers love gift cards because it's very difficult to track that back to them. So anytime you're being asked to pay money, I'll just simply go down to Walgreens and buy us a gift card of $250, that's a scam. Gift cards are truly meant to be gifts to a friend or family member. Valentine's is coming up, and maybe you want to buy someone a dinner card, out to dinner, and so you buy them a gift card. Well, when you're there at the rack looking at the gift cards, you want to look at the gift card closely. You want to make sure it wasn't tampered. Look at the front, look at the back. It has probably a code and a PIN number on it, and the PIN number is usually covered. If you feel like the back of the PIN has been peeled away and revealed, That card has potentially been tampered with. And what's interesting is scammers will go to these gift card racks and they'll look at the numbers and they'll peel back and get the PIN number. And then they go home and they have software where they just download all this into or fill it out into a spreadsheet. And I'm not as technical to understand, but they're bots. The software bots are able to tell when that card, that specific number and PIN number is activated. And once their software tells them that this card has now been activated, they go spend it. They go get it on Amazon and they spend it. And then you go to the store to use it, and they're telling you, oh, there's no balance. It's zero. There's nothing on this card. It's because the scammers already used it. And they're going to quickly use it because they know they want to get it before you do. So look at the cards closely. When I have stood at a kiosk at the Walgreens store for United Healthcare, and I've seen twice in my lifetime, I've seen an older gentleman. He stepped up, he was kind of fumbling with his money, caught my eye, dropping his money on the ground, and I'm like, what's going on there? And he bought a Visa gift card for $250. And I just took a moment to, sir, I understand you're buying a gift card. Do you mind if I ask you what it's for? And he said he's being asked to go get a gift card for $250. I'm like, well, who's telling you this? Is this not a gift? No, it was not a gift. I'm like, sir, you're being scammed. And I wish more cashiers, and maybe they do, I'm not one to say whether or not they do ask you this each time you buy a gift card, but hopefully are doing their due diligence, and when somebody buys a gift card to say, what's it for? If you can't tell me, then I'd share, be careful. You might be being scammed if this card is for someone that you don't even know. Someone's asking you to buy a gift card. Yes? You have a friend that just experienced this same fraud event? Yep. Right. $3,000. Right. How can we prevent it? If we're being asked to pay with a gift card, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. The ground isn't going to give away on me, is it? It's so be careful if you are being asked. If it seems to be coming from someone that you have a relationship with, call that person and ask them, did you just send me an email asking me to buy a gift card for $3,000 for all of our members at the whatever club that you belong to? And say, no, it wasn't me. Okay? Giving to charities. Now again, because I am my parents' power of attorney, I'm also helping them with the charity, philanthropic that they love to give. They have a whole list. And I'm like, well, let's make sure that of the charities you want to give money to, and let's do it one time a year. We like to do it at the end of the year. Let's look at them. Let's make sure that they're all valid charities, that a good portion of the money that you're giving is going to whatever the cause, right? So through www.give.org or www.charitynavigator.org, through those both of those websites allow you to verify that how much of the money I'm giving is actually going to the cause. If it's not 75% or more, I wouldn't give. I'd say that one goes to the trash. We look at them. If I can't find them, we don't give money. If they're not part of that, or the Better Business Bureau, I'm not giving to them. Nope. I don't care who you are. And one of the charities that my mom received Silly enough was cats that need contacts. Cats that need contact lenses. Oh, we verified that was not on the list, so we did not give to them. Yes. Yeah, and whether or not they take the time to be a part of this system, you may want to call the specific, in this case, it was like a Legion that you give money to. You may want to talk to their billing person and find out. Hmm. Well, here's another example. My parents were giving to a charity that I thought was legit. We gave to them, and I said, that's it, we're done now, okay? Because you are going to get, because you've given money, right? You're on a list, and they are going to continue to ask for more money. You're on a list, simply put, because you've given money. But we're only going to do it the one time. You understand? Yes, we do. Well, one of the charities, my dad received a letter stating, are you there? Are you okay? We never received your check. And I'm like, shame on them. We gave them money, and this is just another way for them to, get more money out of you. Because my dad was like, well, didn't we give money to them? Maybe we should send them another check. I'm like, Dad, we gave them money. Shame on them. Because of that letter and in their actions, we are no longer going to give to that charity. So be careful. Right. I'm sticking with the ones that I can verify with and make sure that that money is going to the cause. Takeaways. Be cautious, obviously, when we're just clicking. When you're out on the computer, you know what the websites that you spend time on, what they generally look like, right? And if for whatever reason they look different, like the logo up at the top right corner of this website looks a little larger than it normally does. Right. Restart your computer, okay? Because you may be on a fraudulent website who looks very similar, but is not the website. Restart your computer. If you find any, and that could simply be it. Scammers don't do, they're not going to be as precise, and if you do catch something like as simple as the logo at the top right corner of the website is not the same size as it normally is, restart your computer and go back in. And you're like, oh, I'm back at the same website, but yeah, there's the logo I'm used to seeing. Yeah, right. Isn't that something? Because they will try to look and like the sites you normally experience. Don't answer unfamiliar phone calls. That is a big one, because ultimately if they can't talk to you, they can't scam you. So get your contacts updated in your phone. So if you receive a call, if it isn't one of them, don't answer. They'll leave a message, and most scammers probably won't leave a message, but if it is someone truly that that wants to get a hold of you, they will leave a message. And then ultimately call the trusted numbers. Don't follow the leads that they're providing you, whether it's a link or a phone number. You're receiving a message to you stating that we need to verify your information, your account's about to be closed. Don't follow their lead. Call a trusted number. Questions? Any questions that you may have for me? Pick my brain. Yes.
Can you trust pop-ups? Like so many companies now don't have people that you can talk to through customer service actually. So let's say you have a problem and you contact CenturyLink or Comcast or anybody like that, but you're on that computer
Mhm.
online and a pop-up, person
Generally, I'm going to say, yes, they are. If you're on a website and you're looking at the URL up at the very top, and if you see any odd characters in the URL, that's a flag for you to at least do your due diligence and either restart your computer or close out and go back into the website. Because if you need to go to usbank.com and all of a sudden it's US Bank / something unique and different doesn't necessarily, that's their way of creating a fake website, right? And so I would just, if you had any questions or any doubts of whether it's legit, just restart your computer and go back into that same website. But that's how many corporations now are communicating to their members, to their customers, is through chat. And you get those pop-ups like you say. Very difficult to find a number to call nowadays for some companies. That way, it's set up with IA, artificial intelligence, where based on your question, they can generally generate an answer to you, and then your question is solved, right? Without even having to talk to someone. And that's where, sadly, it's going, but that's why it exists. Any questions? I saw a hand over here. The question was, how did I learn about my parents' scam winning the sweepstakes? We stopped at their home on the way up north, and we were just talking outside. This was in like October, and my mom asked, and there on the kitchen table were all these receipts. All these transactions of them going to the bank and getting money and sending it. And each time they would go, to UPS to send these checks. And my mom said, I think we're being scammed, but don't tell Scott. Well, as soon as my daughter got in the car and we were leaving, my grandma said not to say, but I think I need to say something. I think they're being scammed. And literally in the car, I called 911. And within an hour, the cops were at my parents' door. Yeah, and I didn't know how serious, what the extent of it was, that it was that much money. But again, they're so convincing. So be careful. You will receive messages from either sources or people that you have a relationship with, but don't assume. Ask questions. Make sure that you verify and ultimately call the trusted number, or talk to that individual and ask them, is this true? Is this really happening? Whether it's, again, an account being closed or someone needing your help. Yes.
My husband and I were took care of his hospital, and he was doing the checkbook and everything. Then he had a stroke, so he asked our to check everything out. And he looked at the checkbook, and his aunt was starting. She had dementia, started dementia at the time, and she was giving out her tracking number. So then each month the scammers would go into their checkbook, and use that tracking number and take money out of the checkbook. And it got worse and worse, and so finally our talked to somebody, some police or something, I guess, and what they said is call the FBI. So Art called the FBI, and the FBI kind of worked with them and tried to figure it out. But he said they're all in Jamaica. He said you can't touch them.
A lot of times they're not in this country, correct?
And then when we finally, we had to take the checkbook and everything away from her, he had those important things, got it all away from her. Then, the lawyer said, well, why don't you just give her just a short, so much money a month?
Mm-hmm.
Buy
Yep.
So we would give her $200 a month. Well, then, one day we get a call from Coborn's Grocery in Foley, and they called, and I don't know how they got our number or whatever the deal was, and they said that she spent, when she gets the $200 a March, she goes into Foley, to the grocery store and sends a wire's money down to Jamaica to scammers. That money was going right down there. And so, and then one of the neighbors called them one day, called our thing, and, cause they were out by Poland. And, so the one of the neighbors called and said he was over to visit them one day, and he said there was a bunch of things where she was sending, he said too, he said you better get up here, she was sending, wiring money down there to Jamaica, so. We went, they just took us, we went, I went there one day, and the phone started ringing, and, then Art said, don't answer it, you're not gonna answer it, it's the scammers, and every 5 minutes for over an hour, we sat there.
The phone was ringing.
Trying to open the sewer
Yeah.
down so they could talk to her to get some more money.
Yep. Well, she's on a list. Yeah. Her information's being sold. Someone had her bank account transaction number and was able to withdraw.
They took out a certain amount.
Hmm.
We took the check deposit, and then they didn't have that, so then, oh, that's funny, that's funny.
Yeah.
Hers, it was gonna be, she had won this like Motion Clearinghouse or something like that, and she had to give them money to get the money.
Mhm.
She had $1.5 million, and she was winning, so we had to spend kind of,
As you speak, it brings up an important point. Debit cards and credit cards, when you're making online purchases, please use a credit card. Your debit card is tied directly to your bank account. If a scammer is somehow, some way is able to capture your account, it's a direct link to your bank. Your credit card has security set up in place. Hopefully, if there's any transactions that are happening and they feel like it's coming from a location or a number that has been noted as being fraudulent, they're going to call you and say, hey, we got this purchase and we're just confirming, did you purchase this? And a lot of times, if you didn't, you got some safeguards and you won't owe them that money. But if you use your debit card, there's no recourse, it's gone. They got your money. And so please use a credit card as opposed to your debit card. Yep, just know, I get them myself. I'll see an email. You want to, you have a spam folder, and I'm a big advocate of Google as opposed to many of we're getting more narrow with the ways in which we connect to the internet, and Google seems to be very good at policing that spam. And if you ever look in your spam folder, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine if that would have actually ended up in my email about, thank you for your purchase, right? And of course you're like, what purchase? And then you click on it, and then you're like, I didn't buy that. And then you follow again their lead, and ultimately you're going to call, and they're going to ask you for your information. They're not going to say, oh, we understand this is Scott calling from Eden Prairie. How can I help you? They're going to be like, who's calling? Well, where do you live? Well, can you verify your bank account? It's just amazing as you look in your spam folder. If someone does receive a receipt or thank you for your purchase, just know it's probably spam. It's a scam, right? You'd like to think you can unsubscribe.
I was gonna say, also heard that you should not hit unsubscribe because that is also another window for scammers.
Unsubscribe simply with websites that you know you have a relationship with, and if you no longer want communications from them. But if it's a site you do not have a relationship with, there's no reason to unsubscribe. You can, if it does end up in your inbox, you can move it to your spam, and then anytime you get communications from that site, it's going to go directly to spam. And just trash your spam occasionally. Mm-hmm. Still get it in your inbox? Yes.
And along with that, is there any danger, let's say if you get a text message on your phone, but of course you don't respond because you know it's spam. If you don't delete it, is there a danger with that?
Nope. Nope. You can, whether you move it to spam or you just delete it from your phone, you're fine. It's the clicking and following their leads, and ultimately, what is it? If
But there's no danger if you haven't done anything, you haven't responded to them. There's no danger with it just staying on your phone for whatever reason because you forgot to delete it.
for the most part, no. I would delete it and not open it. Don't even click on it. Again, if you didn't buy anything recently, I'm not even going to look at it because I know it wasn't me. I know it's just a scam. Mm-hmm. Good. Don't answer. Yeah. Yeah. Questions? Any others? Thank you. I do have some information out front that I want everyone to grab that talks about some of the recourses after you've experienced a scam and how to handle it. But how would I, if I ever experience it again, or if you do experience it, just know that yes, it is very, very embarrassing to the person who is experiencing the scam. And they may not be readily willing to share what they are experiencing with you, just because it is so embarrassing. But just know that it can happen to any one of us. And again, for someone younger, dealing with their parents, I would say get involved in their parents' lives. Start asking more questions now so that they feel more comfortable or safe if something were to come up, and they would potentially ask you, I got this email and should I click on it? And then you have an opportunity to maybe help them along. Now, if somebody actually experienced a fraud event and gave money, the recourse is we talked about how it's very difficult to get that money back. You are going to make some drastic changes in your life. Some you may not be happy with. My parents did not like getting rid of their landline. And then the tough parts are the recreating your, closing out a bank account and opening a new one and updating all. It took a couple months. And then the recourse of then giving away that money and knowing that you'll never, ever see it again. You have to, again, it can happen to any one of us. That $120,000 that's very difficult, because, my parents could have used that money, you know? I understand it was there and available, but I look at my parents, they don't really spend money a lot. They don't. But I think having it in the bank and it was kind of like a security of knowing if and when, if they ever needed it, they had it. And yet someone infiltrated their life and was able to convince them to give that money away. So even to this date, well, 2 years later, my parents are still embarrassed. They would never, I don't think my parents would be standing here today telling you about their story because it is so embarrassing. The fact that they were willing to pull down their guard and allow someone in their life and to disrupt it so much. So I'm glad that we have AARP and a source where someone can go out and look at, through the Fraud Watch prevention team. There's lots of information out there through the website. And then as I go out and speak, hopefully I'm touching people's lives where we're now, you go and share that information with your friends and family. And let's stop these scammers. Let's not make it so easy for them to get our money. And eventually, hopefully, ultimately, it just no longer exists because we're on to you, right? Right? No, if you didn't order anything from Amazon, and granted, a lot of us are ordering almost every day, and you order a pen and you get it in the mail, but just don't follow that lead. And ultimately, if you didn't order anything recently, don't bother. What's the worst that could happen? You'll either receive a gift at your front door or you won't receive the scam, right? Mhm. Yep. They're. Mm-hmm. Yep. They're going to use businesses that many of us have relationships with. Yeah. Why not? And then part of what I had to help my parents with, they own their house outright. They have no mortgage. They have no car bills. So having credit available isn't a big issue for them because they already own their own home and they don't see getting a loan for anything anytime soon. So we had to go to the 3 major agencies, the Experians and lock their credit so that no one else can tap into them. Like I said, they were opening up bank accounts across the U.S. in their name. By closing out their credit, that's gonna help prevent that. If you're not buying a home or buying a major purchase and you need credit, why leave it open? You can always put a pause on it. And then if, let's say, for whatever reason you needed it, you can call them again and say, I just need to release it for 3 days, and then go ahead and put it back on, and they will. It's great that she called you. You had a friend or family member that potentially won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, and yeah, again, by reaching out. But when they're asking you to pay money, that was the flag. Why would I pay if you're telling me I won all this money? And not only did my mom win, what did she win? It was millions of dollars that she won, plus 2 cars and all of that. That was all part of that whole Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. But again, I'm not knocking Publishers Clearinghouse. I'm sure there is, truly, they do have winners, but this was a scam that she was experiencing. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and once the scammers got a hold of my mother and asked for her personal information, I'm sure part of that was, well, what's your email? Well, then they quickly sent her an email with a picture of someone holding a check with her name on it. And I'm like, well, that could easily be photoshopped. So, right? They took an image off the internet of a sweepstakes, and then they put my mom's name across it. And when she received that in an email, that sealed the deal. It must be true. Well, I thank you for your time. I'm going to finish now. If we still have questions, we'll continue to talk amongst ourselves, okay? Thank you so much.
All right, so I want to thank Scott for coming. For those who came in person, they stick around if you got more questions for Scott. For those online or watching the recording, again, if you want to reach out, we'll provide some information. We'll try to get into the links, ways to get a hold of Scott, or you can always contact the church. Again, if you're watching this today, tomorrow, whenever it is, if you want to get a hold of Scott, get more information, feel free to contact us, and we'll let you know. So, again, great information, especially in today's days. We were talking beforehand. You know, I remember the good old days. Just I think it was like last year, I kept getting calls that I was going to get arrested, you know, because of Social Security. And I said, "Oh, cool. I could use some rest time." You know, no, I'm just joking. But you know, lots of scary stuff. Be vigilant. You know, a couple things maybe keep in mind. If it sounds too good to be true, probably is. And likewise, if it sounds too bad to be true, probably is. So one last thing, if any of you are, again, I don't watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, but there's a guy I was talking to, Scott, and he goes by the handle Pierogi. I'm not exactly sure why, but Scammer Payback, and this guy's like a computer genius. But actually, you can watch videos where he will actually hack into the scammers' computers, get access to that, and it's really interesting. And he does a lot of stuff too, where he kind of talks through how they work, how they get in. But then his whole goal is to make people aware of what they're doing, but also that he, again, hacks in their computers, erases their information, and records interactions. Some of them are pretty entertaining. So, again, lots of good stuff on YouTube. But, again, thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. God bless, and grab some refreshments. Thank you.